Today's video is brought to you by Assiniboia Downs Gaming and Event Center. And be sure to tune in to Trust the Profits Live Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern for Monday Night Lights, hosted by Matthew DeSantis.
Salutations and welcome, horse racing fans, to the final leg of the Triple Crown. No, not the Belmont Stakes, but the fantasy draft for the Belmont and Acron Stakes. We are very glad to be joined by my fellow draftees, Gino Buccola, Barry the Sniper Spears, Caleb Knight, who is going for history. Is he finally the one? Perhaps, because Caleb has absolutely had some secretariat-like performances the first two legs of this drafting Triple Crown. Caleb, what do you chalk up to your success other than the rest of us not knowing what the hell we're doing with this format?
Oh, you're really trying to put the jinx on me with the intro here.
Yes, that's the whole idea, Caleb. That's the whole idea.
Yeah. I think it's been, a little bit of decent picking and a decent bit of luck as well. I mean, there's been some bad scratches for other people. We've had some horses that just didn't show up that were kind of expected to. And then really, I think the Derby was kind of just, I got Mage on my third round pick, I think. So, and not exactly like I was going in there loving my selection of Mage, but it kind of worked out. Put me in a good spot. Preakness, just kind of did better in the Black-Eyed Susan than I really had any right to hope for, but Tax ran a big one for me. So, in a good spot here. So just hopefully we have some racing this weekend.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely the number one thing we should talk about as we're recording this on Wednesday evening. Belmont has already said that morning training on Thursday is going to be canceled and suspended due to the air quality conditions because of the wildfires up in Canada. They will be making a decision on Thursday morning regarding Racing Thursday's card.
And other tracks have already canceled Thursday, like a lot of other ones. Woodbine, Delaware. I think Finger Lake, like some of the closer tracks around that might have. And I think as the Yankees canceled the baseball game Wednesday night, they're supposed to play a doubleheader on Thursday. We'll see.
We'll see. This is certainly a little bit reminiscent. I mean, not to dive too much into history on a horse racing show, but one of my favorite books is actually Timothy Egan's The Worst Hard Times, which is about the Dust Bowl. And certainly reminiscent of these huge dust storms from the Midwest that ended up, raining down on Chicago and New York City in the 1930s. And, it was scary stuff to certainly see on social media. I was obviously hoping the best health for everybody out at the track and certainly all of the horses. I'm sure that Naira and Belmont will be making the right decision there. But like I said, the weather forecast does look like the winds are going to shift a little bit and hopefully things get cleared up. They were even getting cleared up a little bit later today as well. I talked to some people in the tri-state area. So things are hopefully moving in the right direction there. And we will have a full day of racing on at least Friday and Saturday. Thursday, I think, is a fair thing to question. We'll see what ends up happening in that space. But listen, we're here to draft some horses. And Rodney, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Appreciate it, my man. Always good to see folks in the chat. If you're in the chat, let us know what you're doing and let us know maybe what your first pick in this draft would be, because here's what we're going to be doing. Because the stakes are a little bit smaller in size than the Kentucky Derby. We did this at the Preakness as well. We combined the Preakness and the Black-Eyed Susan field. Well, we're going to do it again here as we combine the Belmont and the Acron Stakes. And we're going to do a 4-round snake draft. I pre-recorded the Wheel of Destiny earlier, sent it to you guys. So you guys know everything's on the up and up. And it was on the up and up because I cursed when I got the first pick. I was thrilled about it. But I will be drafting first. Barry will be drafting second. Caleb drafting third. Gino will be drafting fourth. And the snake draft, of course, reverse order coming back in the second round. So Gino will get that fourth and fifth pick there. Now, when we draft these horses, how do we determine who actually ends up winning? Well, we use Stable Duel scoring, even though Stable Duel is not in New York yet. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it happens sometime soon. But Stable Duel, very straightforward type of a game. 60 points for first, 40 points for second, 30 for third, 20 for fourth, 10 for fifth. Sixth and beyond, you lose points based upon the margin of defeat, the lengths you were beaten by. Additionally, points are deducted over lengths beaten for second, third, fourth, and fifth, and lengths are added to the winner based upon how much they've won by. So it's a pretty straightforward system. Scratches, which we have been dealing with scratches this entire season, and nobody has been dealing with scratches quite like Barry Spears down there, who managed to get First Mission and Pate scratched last time. And so hopefully that does not happen this time. But if there is a scratch, it will result in a 0 because there are no also eligibles. So this is kind of pretty straightforward. So, gentlemen, we will go ahead and get started here with the fantasy draft. And I have the first pick. And it was funny. I went back and was thinking about this. I had the first pick last year. And you talk about just dropping the bag. Sniper, I know you sometimes talk about a certain jockey dropping the bag on front-running horses.
Straight fumbles the bag every time.
I selected We the People last year. Oh, just a disgusting first-round pick. I mean, that is Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning type of selections right there. So that was not great. So
Sam Bowie over Jordan.
It's not good. It's not good. So this year it's tough. It's challenging, I think, because with the first pick, I don't necessarily feel like there's a huge runaway favorite in either of these two races. So I don't feel like there is that horse where I go, I have to have this horse because this is the winning horse definitely in this race. I have opinions, but I don't have, they're not 95% sort of locks that I would feel in some other races. Therefore, I'm going to use the horse that I have the strongest opinion about between the two races, and that is going to be Angel of Empire as my selection for the Belmont Stakes. This is a horse that just has never really done anything wrong in his career and just feels like a horse, even if he doesn't win, is not going to turn in a bad effort. And I just have a hard time seeing him not hitting the board. I think he is a horse that absolutely has the upside to win. Finished a very strong third in the Kentucky Derby, ascending speed figures every single time out. Again, looking at this, I think there are some horses that may have more upside between the two races and may turn in more dazzling performances, perhaps if things break the right way for them. But I'll ultimately go with maybe a safe and steady pick in the first one with Angel of Empire. So that's my top pick. And now, Sniper, it's time for you to disrupt everything with your selection, number 2 overall in the first round.
Well, in addition to being the self-proclaimed king of the no chalk zone, I am also king of the scratch zone.
You are that.
So hopefully I can dodge that bullet this time. But the Belmont's a really interesting race. It could go a lot of different directions. You got, the pacing area is a little bit murky, kind of. There's a couple of different things that could shake out early that could really affect the race. That being said, the horse that I've been waiting to bet for a while is still on the board, obviously, because there was only one pick. So I'm going to take Hit Show. I think he ran a great race in the Derby, despite the one post. I know everybody's like, oh, there's the gate. It doesn't affect him, but it really does. Manny Franco gave him a great ride that day. He just wasn't good enough. He had to maneuver around and in and out of traffic, and he got to the spot and just got passed by Mage, and that was pretty much it. But he ran 5th. His Wood Memorial was great, I thought. With a bad post that day, got bumped around late, still ended up just missing a nose to a big long shot in Lord Miles. His Withers was maybe one of the best 3-year-old preps there was. So I'm on Hit Show.
There you go. Barry takes the Brad Cox horse Hit Show right next door. So 2 Brad Cox horses go off the board, 1-2, stablemate of Angel of Empire. So, and I think you and I both hope that the 3rd Brad Cox horse maybe does some dirty work to let things work out well for our 2 selections. So with that, we turn things over to the 3rd pick in the first round, and that is going to you, Caleb. So where are you going to go with your first selection?
Yeah, I love that Hit Show pick, Barry. I was kind of hoping he would fall to me maybe on the 2nd round. I mean, I think if people
wouldn't have, because I would have snagged him on the way.
It's a sharp bunch here.
We're all on Hit Show for sure.
People love that 2 fills effort in the Derby, understandably so. And Hit Show's race wasn't all that different, so I really think that's a good pick. With that being said, I'm going to go over to the Acron for my selection, and I'm going to take Pretty Mischievous as my pick with the number 3 overall. I thought she ran a nice race in the Oaks, and she's really just a very consistent filly. She's posted 5 wins, a 2nd and a 3rd out of 7 career starts, never missed the trifecta. Looking at the Acorn, I see it looks to me like there's a pretty decent amount of pace signed onto that race. Yep. I think they're going to be moving pretty quick up front. And I think she gets a really nice kind of outside stalking trip, just like she got in the Derby, the Oaks. I thought it was really impressive. She was actually able to win that from the 14 post. She did lose quite a bit of ground going around the turns, and she wasn't really that far off the pace. I mean, some people look at that and be like, oh, well, the pace fell apart. And yeah, it kind of did. But I mean, she wasn't that far off. In fact, she was less than a length off at the second call. Where Gambling Girl launched her rally from way back to come flying late. So I thought she ran an impressive race there. I have questions about kind of the other pick in that race, Money's Gold. So I'm going to go with the horse that your defending Oaks champion that, seems to be just extremely consistent, pretty mischievous.
Yeah, that's a good selection. And certainly that was my number 2. I ranked all the horses between the two fields. That was my number 2 overall ranking. Really like Pretty Mischievous a lot. You're right. Just doesn't feel like she runs bad races. And I like the setup a lot in this particular race. So good pick by Caleb there. Gino, you get 2 back-to-back picks here. So where are you going to go with the final pick in the first round and first pick in the second round?
Yeah, I mean, I probably didn't think I would have done this initially. And this is sort of opposite from the way I normally approach just gambling overall, but in a fantasy situation where you're just trying to pick up points, especially like Stable Duel, it's a little bit different. Like we're going off of Stable Duel scoring. I could have both of the favorites.
Yes.
For both races sitting here at the fourth pick. So I'm going to go with Forte and with Money's Gold all right. I mean, if I'm sitting here with those horses who could go off favored in both races, I got to take that chance to have them. So I'm going to pick both the chalks. It's the all chalk zone.
Look at this guy.
In that show.
For me. I know.
I don't even know if I know you anymore.
9 to 5 and 5 to 2 and repeat, folks.
It's like Mario versus Wario.
It's like my evil twin when Steve Urkel steps onto the transformation chamber, like the Stefan Urkel.
Yeah,
that's when I come out. I'm like, instead of being the better gambler, I'm the worst one that does everything wrong and just throws them all bad. Yeah. So give me the chalks.
I love it. I mean, certainly Forte is a horse with a lot of upside. I mean, has, again, you talk about a horse that has done nothing wrong, literally the definition of a horse that has done nothing wrong.
I think it's just, I feel more confident about him running a fine race. Like, I don't know if he's going to win, and I probably wouldn't say he's going to win, but I think he'll show up with a good effort and be kind of in the mix and then just be not fit enough, may have needed a race in between. Like a horse like National Treasure, he could absolutely win if he gets the lead, but he could just run last and I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah. Like, I don't really know how good he is or if the pace shapes up. I don't think that will happen for Forte. I feel he's a little safer.
Yeah. Understandable. And certainly Money's Gold, tons of talent there. Super fast and
Barry's favorite speed rider aboard. So
yeah,
I'm in
exactly.
Great hands.
Exactly. Great hands. So
that Money's Gold. I'm looking at that line from the Money's Gold race, the last one. Oh man.
I know that was something we were all very frustrated with. I remember watching that live and just being very mad about how things were going on to start my day. But Caleb, let's swing things back around to you with your second selection. So with your second pick in the second round, where are you going to go with this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a horse that I really wasn't expecting to draft, actually, but sometimes that's just the way these things work out. I'm going to
take like a theme, apparently.
Yeah.
Like Gino's drafting horses he didn't want. You're drafting
I guess
you
it
didn't
is.
want.
I'm going to go with Tappet Trice here. Yeah. I don't love this horse. I'll be the first to admit that, but just from a strategy angle, I want a Belmont horse here. I don't think I'm going to have many real contenders when the draft gets back to me in the Belmont. So I definitely wanted a Belmont horse in this spot. And going into the Derby, and this is like the most cliche thing ever, me and half of Twitter said, oh, Tappet Trice is my Belmont horse, right? But he just looks like a Belmont horse. He moves like a Belmont horse. He's a Tappet pedigree. Drink every time somebody mentions Tappet winning the Belmont or Tappet's offspring winning the Belmont. Like, you won't make it to the fourth race. So it's just, he just checks a lot of the right boxes. He fired a clunker in the Derby. I don't know what happened, but he never struck me as the kind of horse that was built to run well in Derby. He's not particularly agile or light on his feet or swift. He's more of a horse that, you really got to ride him for quite a while. He kind of keeps grinding away, and he just seems like a grindy horse that's going to like the Belmont Oval, the broad sweeping turns. I think the smaller field size will do him some favors. And his race 2 back in the Bluegrass is outstanding. So I think there's enough upside here that, I didn't want him in the first round, but kind of where we are in the draft at this point, second round, I think he offers some upside and should certainly at least run his race, I think.
Yeah,
Matt, if all of us need another job in like another life or later on, I think we'd all be pretty good lawyers, because we get to this point where we start selling ourselves on these horses that we didn't like, and we make this fantastic case. All of a sudden, Caleb looked like he was going to single tap a Trice in every single thing on every single ticket. And he's been waiting for this horse for a year. So if I needed to get out of trouble, Caleb, I'd let you do the talking for me, because that was good.
It goes both ways. The amount of winners I've talked friends out of indirectly, or losers I've talked them into. I mean, it really goes both ways.
It's like one of those things. It's like, who are you trying to convince, you or me?
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody.
And by the way, you think we're doing that now? Wait till we have to draft Il Miracolo in the fourth round. We're talking ourselves into that one. So listen, there is now. Granted, wait, I should mention, there's obviously 16 overall selections. There's 17 horses between the two fields. So there is going to be one horse that's going to be the last kid in dodgeball that's not getting selected in gym class. So that might very well be Il Miracolo. Not to tip my hand too much on this one, but Barry, coming back to you. Gino really, I think, cleared out the board for you, because he's clearing out chalk left and right. So I know there's some prices for you. So where are you going? Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going to go to the Acron with this pick. I'm going to take number 8, Exceed.
God damn it, Barry.
I thought you were going a different direction. Okay.
Well, and it was between that one and Darth Vader.
That's where I thought you were, because I know you've always liked her. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I scored on that horse at 46-1 a few months ago, but think that one might be a little bit overmatched. Exceed looks to have a little bit of upside. There's going to be some pace here to run into. The last effort was probably okay. I mean, it just seems like this horse wants more distance, and that's what she's going to get on Friday.
So this is why I didn't want to draft first, because I really, really, really wanted to get a seed with my second pick in the second round, because that was the horse that's going to complete my exacta with Pretty Mischievous. And Barry, I agree with you. Great selection. So completely agree with you there. On I think this horse wants more distance, and I think this horse also wants the pace is sort of set up that's going to be perfect here. I wish Darth Vader didn't have the inside rail. That's what scares me about Darth Vader, is the rail, I think, is going to force things more than ideally they would want to force things. Because I think with George Weaver taking over, that last work shows maybe they're going to try to take back a little bit more. Maybe they're going to try to be a little bit more mid-pack or stalking rather than up on the lead. I do think a one-turn race fits her to a T. I'm ultimately going to take a little bit of a swing here in the Acron as well, and I'm going to go to the Chad Brown filly Occult, the number 4 horse. I just think this horse is one that does not need to be on the lead and has shown some promise in the past. Obviously, winning the Busanda very impressively at 1 1/8. Went to the bench for a long time, came back, ran certainly a very disappointing Gazelle. Now coming back here again after a little bit of a layoff. I just think this horse maybe gets the setup, would have to take a step forward from a speed figure standpoint, but I really want to stay away from using some of the front end speed in the Acron, because like Caleb, I think it's going to get burned up. So I'm going to ultimately use Occult in this spot with my pick in the second round. And then in the third round, I'm going to come back around and I'm going to do something that you guys have been doing all draft, and not do something that I wanted to do, and not do something I was planning on doing. And that's taking National Treasure. And I'm going to take National Treasure with my pick in the third round. The pace scenario is blurry for sure. Because maybe Il Miracolo sends Sniper. You and I and Gino were just talking about this. Chuck Simon thinks they're going to change strategies and send. Other times we look at this horse on paper and just go, I don't know if this horse is actually fast enough to send. And we'll see. Tappet Shoes maybe presses the pace from the inside, but maybe National Treasure gets to set his own pace. And I'm not sure National Treasure is good enough to get the job done, but I think he's good enough to hold on for a really long time. And those Belmont fields can get really stretched out towards the end. And I just have a feeling that he might be able to hit the bottom end of the board or something along those lines. And so I'm going to go with National Treasure. A little bit of a safety pick there for me, but I'll go with him as my third round pick. So Sniper, that takes it back to you. So where are you going to go with your third round selection?
We're going to go back to the Belmont for this selection. And I was kind of on the fence on taking National Treasure. So you kind of forced me into the horse that I sort of kind of wanted anyway, which is Arcangelo.
Yeah.
He's kind of just really the logical horse to kind of pick up at this point. I think he's better than Red Route 1 and most of the rest of the horses that are left in the Belmont. And there's actually kind of a little possibility that this horse could win. So
yeah.
Why not?
He's not far off from like speed figures.
And
everything. And he's progressed pretty nicely in his races. Like spacing's good. He's got the win over the track. It would be very cool to see the first female trainer ever to win the Belmont. Also, I think I was reading they didn't even have a female starter until like 1986 in the race.
Wow.
So just to give you an idea.
Yeah, and I think that's also, great pedigree. Obviously, Arrogate up top, Damn Out of Tappet underneath. Really gutty effort in that Peter Pan.
Tap it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even going to make it to the race. I'm not going to make it to Saturday. I'm gonna. Somebody's gonna have to. I still got to record capping the card. How many times am I going to mention that on that show?
Yeah.
I might need to go to the hospital tonight. But I think there's a lot to like there. Obviously, I find myself rooting for the trainer, Jenna Antonucci, as well. She seems like she is somebody who tries to do things the right way, does right by the horse, lets the horse kind of speak to her in terms of, how that horse is feeling and whether or not it's ready for a big race. And has been training very nicely over the Belmont surface by all accounts. So really like Arcangelo there quite a bit with that third round selection. Caleb, the board comes back to you, and I think it kind of played out the way you thought. There's not maybe much left in the Belmont Stakes. So where are you going to go with your third round selection?
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that I did go for Tappet Trice there because the Belmont picks at this point are a little bit sparse. So I'm going to punt on the Belmont, go back to the Acron. And when I first started handicapping and sort of put my picks in order, this was the horse that I'm like, I'm going to get this horse in the third round. And it actually worked out. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's a horse that I planned on taking. And that is actually, maybe a bit of an outsider, but I'm taking Frosty O'Toole in the Acron.
Yeah.
This is a horse that I think, is probably getting disrespected maybe a little bit. I don't think this horse should be 20-1 in this field, which is what she's at on the morning line right now. Obviously, all the respect in the world for David. It's a salty field, but I think she kind of has to run in here. I don't know that she has a great chance to win necessarily, but like we mentioned earlier, I think there is a lot of pace in here. I think that your winner probably comes from somewhere off the pace, mid-pack or further back. And if you look at, her running lines recently, she was up against, moderate to slow paces in each of her last 3 starts. She's never really had a fast pace to run at. And, she's been kind of inching forward a little bit by little bit. She didn't really fire last out in the Gazelle. I think she may have been on the rail on a day when the inside wasn't very good at Aqueduct. Most of your winners that day kind of had that outside sweeping move. So I'm not sure if the rail was the place to be that day. And despite, the winner, Promiser America, came back to do no running in the Oaks, but Gambling Girl came on for a crazy strong second. So I do think, maybe some mixed signals out of that race. But I think Frosty O'Toole is the kind of horse I would key underneath of all my trifectas in this race. And I think she gets a piece.
Yeah, I like it. I like that one a lot. And that was it's a horse I liked actually a little bit in that Gazelle. And I think it gets the right setup in this race as well and can sit behind that early speed. So Gino, goes to you now. You have I can't believe we're already there. We get your third and your final pick already. So where are you going to go with to kind of close out your team?
Yeah, so I'll pick one from each, from the Acorn and from the Belmont. So that way I'll have 2 for each race. I'm going to go with a real wild card in the Acorn with the number 2 randomized. We have no idea really how good she is. She won in March and she beat a field at Aqueduct, a field of 6, but she earned a 92 buyer speed figure in doing so, which was a big effort. We just haven't seen her back since. This is going to be a tough spot because she showed speed that day. There's a lot of other early speed in here, but she might be nice. Like, she may not be a horse that needs the lead. She might just have won that way against the field she was better than. Maybe she'd be fine just sitting off the pace. She's certainly a horse who has a nice pedigree and a horse who I think they paid $420,000 for. So, she's supposed to be nice, and she's only 5-1 in this race also. So I'm going to give randomized the selection, and then I'll go to the horse who everybody thought was the Belmont horse for all along, Red Route 1, who, he's pretty honest and pretty consistent. And I actually, as a fan of his and someone who had him in a spot or two in the Preakness, I loved how Joel tried to get into the race early. What else was he going to do? Just sit back and do nothing? Like, he had no other choice when they're going that way. At least he made an early move, but just that's not what this horse wants to do. And that's not at all what this horse should be doing. He's just going to sit back, make one late run, hope they go a little quick early, hope that Il Miracolo can push National Treasure, and maybe the inside horse, Tappet Shoes, is also forwardly placed. And then all of a sudden, one or two of these horses just get closer because they're going a little bit longer. It always happens in the Belmont. And that's when Red Route 1 should have no problem with distance and should be passing maybe half the field. I think it just depends on how many more than that will he pass.
Well, it's funny, Gino, earlier on when Barry and I were on your podcast a little bit earlier, we were talking about Red Route 1's full sibling running in a 1.5 mile dirt marathon earlier in the card.
Yep.
And so the pedigree is there to go the distance, and how this horse has actually run quite well. The sibling, that is, has run quite well at that marathon dirt distance. So makes some sense to suggest that. And you're right. The Red Route 1 before Tappet Trice was everybody's Belmont horse. So
by the way, the rider of Red Route 1 is no longer his real name. It is Voldemort, or he who shall not be named, because he can't win. Until he wins, I'm not going to say his name.
Well, Voldemort is, he could give some frustrating rides at times, but then he can give some brilliant ones too. And I know he is someone who maddens one of Caleb's colleagues on the Wrong Lead, Josh Rodriguez, quite a bit. Caleb, where are you going to go with your final selection here in the fourth round?
I feel like in honor of Josh, I have to go to one of his horses in here now. Now that bring it up, this is a horse I didn't expect to be here, and she's already been mentioned, but I'm gonna actually stick with the Acron. So we'll do a 3-1 split here, I guess, and I'm gonna take Darth Vader. I thought she would go a little earlier. I'm a little surprised she fell this far. I guess y'all are probably seeing maybe the pace the way I am, maybe thinking she burns up and falls out the back. But, like somebody mentioned, I think it was you, Matthew. I mean, the latest work suggests they might try to be a little more, conservative with how she distributes her energy in this spot. They might try to rate her off the pace a little bit. Johnny V's a little more of a patient rider than Saez. And while I didn't like her Gulfstream Park Oaks, I thought that was kind of a poor race. I did think she ran a very good race in the Kentucky Oaks. And, could be, sitting on another move forward. I mean, she kind of was progressing forward quite a bit throughout the latter part of her 2-year-old season and the early part of her 3-year-old season. Maybe just bounced a little bit at Gulfstream and that GP Oaks. I mean, maybe just kind of got cooked a little bit on the front, but she came back and showed she was no worse for wear. I do hate the post. I wish she was outside, but it was between her and one other who I assume is going to go next. And I just think that she offers a lot more upside, and I'm hesitant to take those long shots at Belmont where it's not uncommon to get beat by 15 lengths.
I know one thing about Darth Vader is that, at least from what I've seen from her, is that she is way better one turn. And I think those 2-turn races kind of did her in. I think she's going to run way better on Friday.
She can sit a little bit, and she fights a little bit too. Like, she does a couple things well, right? So like those are things to where you think she may not get beat all that much. And honestly, when you go through the field for the Acron, while the top 2 on odds and based on what they've done are probably a little bit above the rest, like the rest of this field is pretty talented. I mean, you look at the longest shots in the field, like Frosty O'Toole, or even a horse who hasn't been picked, or a horse like Randomized. Like, those may be nice horses that we just haven't seen compete against better horses and have their big wins yet. So like, these horses are 5, 8, 10 to 1. It's not like we're talking about 25, 50 to 1 shots that have no chance.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you're right. And it's it's a much more, it's an interesting race. I mean, the fact it's a 1-turn race, I think just changes the dynamics a lot. And I agree with you, Sniper, that Darth Vader, it seems like a 1-turn type of a horse, and that runs beautifully at that distance. So, But now that Caleb's taken that one off the board for you, because I knew that's exactly where
I
you
was
were going
there.
if it slipped by. But
I was going there.
There's just so the people out there listening know, there's 3 horses left. It is Tappet Shoes, Good Girl, Bad Habits, and Il Miracolo, 2 from the Belmont, 1 from the Acorn. Sniper, where are you going to go with your final selection?
I think you pretty well know I'm going with the Good Girl, Bad Habits. Brittany Russell's been hot as a pistol since the beginning of the year, and it wouldn't be far-fetched for this horse to hit the board. Especially, I know she shows a lot of 1s, and I think she was just way better than her competition. That doesn't necessarily mean she needs the lead. And this field isn't exceptionally huge. There's only 8 horses, so I think she might be able to work out a trip and grab a piece.
Yeah, no, she feels like a really good horse. Love Brittany. You're right. She just got done winning her 4th meet title, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Just won the Pimlico title, the trainer title, and Jevion Toledo won the jockey title there as well, and they're teaming up with this one. So a lot to like with Good Girl, Bad Habits. And she might, Gino, to your point, she might be one of those like randomized, might be really, really good. We just don't know because we've not seen her run in this graded stakes company. And maybe she takes it to Money's Gold and we realize, maybe she's the speed. And you just never know until they all line up against each other. So, definitely a very intriguing horse. So this leaves me with the choice of Tappet Shoes or Il Miracolo, and that's not much of a choice. I'm going to go with Tappet Shoes here, who is, I think, a legitimate horse. Finished second last time out in the Bathhouse Row Stakes, and one for Brad Cox. We've talked before. Maybe this is the one that pushes the pace a little bit as well from that inside post position. This is a horse we're going to start drinking again. Tap it, sire, up top. You'd assume this horse can get the distance and won't mind going the distance. So, definitely think that this one, if it doesn't get burned up on the front end, might be able to hold on and finish mid-pack. And again, in a 9-horse field from a stable duel standpoint, listen, if this horse can finish 4th, even if it's like 10, 12 lengths back, it's still getting you some positive points. And the upside is maybe this horse has a better race in him than we realize. And there are some things to like with Tappet Shoes. So, this horse has been ascending from a speed figure standpoint, second back from a brief layoff. And it does feel like a little bit of a hard luck horse that it always kind of runs up against slightly better horses. Finished 3rd 2 times out ago to a really nice horse, Dennington and Cagliostro, who we just saw Cagliostro run a really nice race last weekend, 2nd place to Scotland and Churchill Downs. So again, that's kind of where I'm going to go because I don't think Il Miracolo's got a shot. I think Il Miracolo is the happy jack of this year. I think he finishes 45 lengths back. So I'll go with Tappet Shoes there to close things out.
I think on speed figures, his top buyer is a 77. Just sort of comparing to the rest of the field. And everybody else, everybody else in here is in the 90s. And as we said, shout out to his owner when they asked him at the draw, why did you pick the Belmont to run in? He says, I'm a gambler. I love to gamble. Why not? So, yeah.
I respect it a huge amount. And I love the honesty in the interview. Good for him.
But I will say,
because by the way, if I had his horse, I'd go in the Belmont too, probably.
The one thing, as just like a fan of racing and horse, in general, if he's in this race and doesn't at least try very hard to go to the front, I'm going to be wondering why he's in this race. Because that's what he has to at least try that. Barry made a point when we were talking earlier. He may not be fast enough, even if he tries to get the lead over a horse like National Treasure, if he's also trying to get the lead or someone else. But I hope that he's in here to at least try to muck it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. No, couldn't agree more. So we have our teams selected, but before we do, we had a nice comment, I think, in here from, which is a good question. Maybe the 4 of us can go around with this, which is Trish asked, what price do you think Forte is going to go off at? She doesn't think he's getting the respect that he deserves a lot. I think it's just because there's a lot of questions about him right now, but he is installed as the morning line favorite at 5-2. So I guess one of the questions is, do you think that remains? Do you think he does stay as the favorite? And if so, kind of what price do you think he goes off at? And Gino, I'll kind of toss it to you first.
Matt, you hit a good point earlier. Very New York connections, though, right? So when you think about Forte, these are connections that know the trainer, the owner, the jockey, that will take a ton of money. So I think he'll be favored or right there in the second choice. Like, I guess I wouldn't be shocked if a horse like Angel of Empire and him were both around like 3-1, something like that. But I do feel like he's going to take more money. So if I had to bet, I've known to put a wager in here and there. I think he'll go off favored.
Yeah, I think 2-1 is probably the number. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to get below that. I mean, he might even be 5-2. I mean, this is a tough race. I think National Treasure is probably going to take more action than the morning line suggests, but I think that was by design.
Yeah. Caleb, where are you going on this one? Where do you think the odds go with Forte?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with the previous kind of two assessments in here. I think he probably is your favorite. I don't think he's a heavy favorite. I think he's in that 5-2, 3-1 range. Mm-hmm. I think we see a lot of these 10-1 horses. Hit Show I think takes money. Archangelo probably takes a little bit. Tap at Shoes probably doesn't go 20-1. So I think they come down, and then maybe you have horses like Forte and Angel of Empire kind of flirting with that 3-1 co-favoritism sort of range.
Yeah. No, I have a hard time seeing it not happen, and I make a joke that there's a lot of New York Italians who cannot wait to bet money on Forte. That a micropole horse. I mean, are you kidding me? And Todd Pletcher, New York, Belmont. I'm maybe a little bit more bullish on Forte being a favorite than you guys, just because I don't give. What I'll say is I just think of these Triple Crown races, the general public kind of throws things off a little bit more than what we might sit around and think of as the horse's honest assessment.
There was a 50-1 morning line horse that was. Did it go off at 10-1 or 8-1? In the Preakness?
I think 10-1 Yeah, in the Preakness.
Yeah, at one point was 8-1, Chase the Chaos, and I think settled it
madness
at 10.
Yeah. So there's always that madness, and I do think Caleb, to your point, I think you're right. Like a horse like Tap at Shoes probably gets bet down. I even think Red Route 1 probably takes money and gets bet down, and so and then maybe some of these other horses go float up. Barry, I do think the kind of one of the big questions is what sort of money National Treasure takes, that sort of thing. So it's going to be a great betting race, I think, because I think, we all kind of like a little bit of prices in the race. And so, let's look at the assessment of our teams here. So just to recap it for everyone, I got Angel of Empire, Occult, National Treasure, and Tap at Shoes. Barry got Hit Show, Acede, Archangelo, Good Girl, Bad Habits. Caleb got Pretty Mischievous, Tap at Trice, Frosty O'Toole, and Darth Vader. And Gino got Forte, Money's Gold, because he's a chalk-eating weasel, Randomized, and Red Route 1. And so looking at the, Barry, I'll start with you. Looking at the fields, how do you feel like your team went?
I like my squad, I think I hit kind of right in the middle, not the extreme favorites, but not the longest long shots, but much to my chagrin, I know the rider on Money's Gold. I have renamed him Ted Stryker when he's on the lead. So he's just gonna sweat.
Here's the thing, Barry. I'm looking at your list of horses, and they look like a really good list of horses that are going to actually run on Friday and Saturday. And so,
no scratches. I forgot about that. Yeah,
that's going to be the most important thing. Caleb, how are you feeling about your team?
Yeah, man, I'm feeling pretty good. I was really happy to get Pretty Mischievous with number 3. She was my top pick actually going in. And then I wasn't really planning to end up with 3 in the Acorn, but just the way that the draft worked, I kind of felt that was my best shot. I am surprised Tap at Shoes was the last overall pick. I had him quite a bit higher, so I was surprised he fell that far. But yeah, I mean, I'm relatively happy with how things went.
Yeah. Gino, now that you have to rename your whole social media branding as the Chalk Zone, how are you feeling about this team?
I know. I was going to say, my horses are not going to win because of the way. I just know, when you pick the chalk like this, I know this isn't me. I'm not the type of person who likes to be singled in the last race of a ticket with the heavy favorite. That's just not, I don't feel warm and fuzzy when I'm in that situation. But all joking aside, from a draft standpoint, if we were drafting teams and, doing a fantasy draft, I'd be really pleased with my team, just the way everybody fell to me. Because when they get to you at a certain point, when you're not going to get another pick on the way back, you just got to take the best that you can that's around right there. Yep. So I couldn't really be greedy. If I got the number 1 pick, it would have been Pretty Mischievous. But then after that, my team would have probably looked a little bit more like Barry's because I liked Hit Show and A Seed as like my best.
Yeah.
The horses I'm going to bet probably in those races if I were to make a wager. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a little chalkier here, but I think Barry has got a couple of the horses I like their value and might be making their way onto my tickets.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you basically went the Billy Bean route with your.
Absolutely. Yep.
I like it.
Just play the numbers.
I like it.
Exactly.
I like it.
Stats.
Like it. Fellas, this has been a lot of fun. We'll obviously update the public on the scoring after the day subsides, but want to thank you guys all again for doing this. This is a lot of fun. This is the second year we've done this together. I thoroughly enjoy doing this. This is, I think, a fun way to talk through the races and a fun way of thinking about them. So I just want to say thank you guys for the time that you take to join me on this. This is always a lot of fun. And Caleb, let the folks know, what do you have going on? What are the guys on the wrong lead doing this week? And who all do you have on?
So we're still kind of ironing out last minute plans because we're good planners like that. But we will be we'll be on Thursday, like always, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern on the wrong lead. We'll be doing kind of a combined weekend preview show, mostly focusing on Saturday, but we'll definitely touch on the Acron and maybe the True North or one or two of the undercard stakes as well for Friday. So you can find us Thursday, YouTube, Twitter, anywhere else.
Yep, absolutely got to do it. A must watch every Thursday. I watch occasionally just to see if bartender Josh shows up, and those are my favorite episodes. But always good stuff. Sniper, Big Mondays, Chuck Simon, going in circles. What else do you got going on, man?
Not much. I did Gino's podcast. Doing a little appearances here and there. I was on Twitter Spaces earlier.
Nice.
Talking about some of these races. So, I think I'm pretty much done for the week. So, trying to ride it out. Hopefully this smoke clears.
Yeah.
Literally. And everything is cool for Friday and Saturday. Because it doesn't look good for tomorrow, to be honest.
No, it doesn't. No. But Friday and Saturday, fingers crossed. So, Gino, you got a lot going on between horse racing, the NBA Finals, the NHL Stanley Cup. What all do you have going on, my man?
Yeah,
Mandalorian.
In the last week, I posted, NBA final stuff. We did an old wrestling rewatch. We covered everything going on in wrestling. We did Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We're all over the place. And then Friday, Belmont took care of all the stakes races. Matt and Barry joined me to talk about all 9 of the graded stakes races on the Saturday Belmont card. So we went a little over an hour. We had a blast. We dived into the daily racing form past performances. I'm going to post that a little later tonight, and then it'll be on podcast on the audio if you want to check it out tomorrow. And doing a little work here and there with DRF. You'll see some tweets pop up there. Yep. Also, getting some of the buddies involved to help out with some stuff there too. So anything that you need for handicapping, if you need clocker reports, anything this weekend, head on over to DRF.
Absolutely. Now, DRF is a must use for me. I listen all the pedigree plays, all of the diving into that stuff. That's where I get
Formulator
it from DRF, being able to go in and look at all this stuff, trainer stats. For instance, a lot of people on Twitter, a couple notorious people perhaps on Twitter really like Slow Down Andy. Doug O'Neill, 0 for 13 in graded stakes races at Belmont. Doug O'Neill, 0 for 9 in graded stakes races coming back from 180-day to playoff. Guess what? I'm not playing Slow Down frickin' Andy. So that does not seem like a good bet for me. So, but you can, manipulate and look at all the data in that way on there. So what I will say is the one thing I wish I would have mentioned at the top, the Belmont, I have to say, my old Kentucky home, get that out of here. Maryland, my Maryland, terrible song. Nobody knows the words. When you start hearing ba 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 da da, I mean, come on. Yeah. It doesn't get better than Frank. I don't care how problematic he may continue to be as a historical figure. I love Old Blue Eyes. And that song absolutely rocks. And you get everybody knows the words, everybody's singing along. And that's just an awesome vibe. And I just hope, the weather's great. I hope it's just a lot of fun out there. So even though we don't have a Triple Crown up for contention, it's an awesome race. And
it's always my favorite. Awesome I actually like this day the most of all 3 of them. I think the day overall, they've made the undercard races really good, and you get a lot of good races in there as well. And I feel like the Belmont it sounds weird because it's going longer, but it's a little bit more honest assessment of the horse's ability. Like some of these 3-year-olds in the Kentucky Derby can sometimes be a little bit of a crapshoot based on trip or what happens there. So I've always had myself pretty good success. One of my favorite times ever was just fist pumping when California Chrome got beat. Absolutely love that. I was the evil heel Everybody in the world was the biggest Chrome fan, and I was all over Tonalist. I had been waiting on that one, and I was like, I was cutting my heel promo that day. That was like one of the all time
just a coward. Just a coward.
Wearing a black hat.
I know.
What is this? This is
it
awful.
Was great. I grew the facial hair in following
that,
so it was awesome. Yeah.
I'll be honest. I was doing that a little bit with the Preakness because I was all over National Treasure, and nobody else on my channel. All the other Trust the Prophet guys, it's going to be Mage. It's a National Treasure got no chance. And I was letting them know it in the chat. I was like, National Bleeping Treasure. I told you.
You're cool. No,
you don't think Bob Baffert's going to show up and win his record 8 Preakness? You kiss my ass. Of course he is. Like, of course what's going to happen. So I do appreciate the heel turns occasionally on these big days. But listen, for all the folks out there watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to press that subscribe button. Make sure to follow all of these fine gentlemen on Twitter. Make sure to follow all their respective stuff. Going in circles, on the wrong lead. That's what G said. All great content. If you're a horse racing fan, if you're a sports fan, you need to follow. So, gentlemen, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. For all the folks out there, make sure you have a wonderful and profitable day at the races. And remember, it's now post time.